What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC Vegas 101. We have Amanda Ribas going against Mackenzie Dern. We are back after about a 3-week break and looking to get right back into it. The break for me personally kind of flew by. I went to Tampa for UFC Tampa. I think I had a little bit too much fun in Tampa, I think. So I had to recover from that. It took about a week. Had, of course, Christmas, New Year's, all that. Playoff fantasy football, so it wasn't all that bad to just kind of sit back, relax, and really for me, I just tried to not even think about MMA for the entire break, kind of reset my mind, because we're going to be going hard in 2025. So yeah, this is going to be my 7th year of doing content. I don't see myself stopping anytime soon, so looking forward to another year of breaking down some fights. And yeah, should be a fun year. 2 solid cards to kick off the year. We got UFC Vegas 101. We have UFC 311 next week as well. So yeah, looking forward to 2025 and seeing what it brings for us. All right, before we get into it, if you guys could, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, leave me a comment. All 3 of those things go a very long way. If you guys do want to support me more, or if you guys want extra content, be sure to check out dfsbythenumbers.com. That's where you'll find all my other content. Got DraftKings content, prize picks on there, betting content especially. Do a best bet article where I break down the entire fight, give my prediction, the round, the method, the confidence rating. I give the best bet for each and every single fight on the card, and then something we're going to be adding this year is I'm going to be adding a long shot prop section as well for pretty much every single fight on the card too. So all my other content that you do not see on YouTube is on dfsbythenumbers.com. Check it out. Really helps support me, really helps me keep going and doing this for you guys week after week. Other than that, I think we can get right into it, guys. 14 fights to break down. We got 14 fights next week as well, so 28 fights within these next 2 weeks. I say we get started. All right. We're going to kick it off with the first fight of the card, the first fight of 2025. It is Nurullo Aliev going against Joe Solecki. We got Aliev, 24 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 9-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Joe Solecki, he is 31 years old, 5'9", with a 70.5-inch reach. He's 13-5 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds as we always do, and we see that Nurullo Aliev opened up minus 350. He's currently minus 450, and Joe Solecki opened up plus 285. He's currently sitting as a plus 350 underdog. So this was supposed to be Nurullo Aliev versus Yanal Ashmos. Ashmos pulled out, and in steps Joe Solecki. And I think this is one of the easiest fights on the card to break down. I see this fight playing out pretty simply here, and it's going to be Nurullo Aliev getting a takedown and Joe Solecki laying on his back and throwing up submission attempts for 15 minutes. And yeah, I mean, if Solecki's winning this fight, it's probably going to be some type of submission off of his back. That's kind of how I'm seeing it playing out. But Joe Solecki is content to be taken down, content to lose minutes. We saw that in the Dawson fight. We've seen that in some other fights as well. And Nurullo Aliev's a guy that's going to take you down. He's not going to wow you. He's going to take you down. He's going to land some ground and pound, and he's going to win a decision in most of his fights. So for me, it's a pretty easy pick here. It's Aliev by decision, and I think Joe Solecki is literally sub or bust. So Aliev and Aliev by decision. Moving on, we got Fatima Kline going against Victoria Dudakova. We got Kline, 24 years old, 5'6", with a 67.5-inch reach, 6-1 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Victoria Dudakova, 25 years old, 5'5", with a 67-inch reach, 8-1 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. We have Fatima Kline opening up minus 225. Victoria Dudakova opening up plus 195, and we see that Fatima Kline is currently a minus 950 favorite, and Victoria Dudakova is a plus 650 favorite. So yeah, this is a fight, one of the first fights I taped actually, because I remember Fatima Kline, I remember being very high on her, even prior to or even after the Jazz Davicius loss, and I wanted to look into the fight, right, and I did. And I'm like, oh man, I really like Fatima Kline here. And then I look at the line, it's like, geez, she's minus 1,000. And it's like, what? But yeah, I mean, I guess I can kind of see why. It's like Victoria Dudakova, I kind of think she's a borderline fraud. She had some hype coming in. She was undefeated coming in, but I just don't see it from her. She's had problems with staph. I think she's had staph in both of her, in 2 of her 3 UFC fights. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. But in her fights, it's like the Sam Hughes fight was a terrible look to me. She was very, very tired in the second round. She was looking up at the clock, just looked awful against Sam Hughes. But was even worse than that Sam Hughes loss was honestly that Jinh Yu Frey win she had. She looked awful against Jinh Yu Frey. She struggled against 39-year-old atomweight Jinh Yu Frey. And I'm like, okay, I just don't think Victoria Dudakova is it. Whereas on the flip side, you got Fatima Kline, who's training with Erin Blanchfield, and she's good everywhere. You look at her Tapology page, you see a ton of grappling matches on her Tapology. It's completely filled with them. I believe she's a black belt in BJJ, very good grappler. You know, that base is grappling, and then it's like you look at her striking, it's like, geez, she's a very, very good striker as well. So I think Fatima Kline's the future, and I think everybody's agreeing with that, hence the minus 1,000. But yeah, I think it's a great matchup for Kline. I think she gets back on track. That loss to Jasmine up a weight class on short notice doesn't really mean nothing to me. It's a tough matchup. Jasmine's big, strong. Victoria Dudakova, I think she's going to struggle wherever the fight goes. I think Dudakova's hittable. I think that Dudakova can be taken down. I think she has really poor cardio, and I think her grappling is kind of suspect. So I like Kline here, and I think she actually finishes Victoria Dudakova. She's talking about how she wants to come in here, make her strawweight debut, get a finish, put herself on the map, and I think she does just that. I think she wears down Dudakova and gets her out of there by third-round submission. So Kline and Kline by third-round sub. Moving on, we got Magomed Gadzhiyasulov going against Bruno Lopes. We got Gadzhiyasulov, 31 years old, 6'2", with a 75.5-inch reach, 9-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Bruno Lopes, 31 years old, 6'2", with a 74-inch reach, 13-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Yeah, this fight sucks. Gadzhiyasulov opened up minus 240. He's currently minus 220. Bruno Lopes opened up plus 205. He's currently plus 185. I am not high on either of these guys. Both these guys have been on the Contender Series. Gadzhiyasulov was in that Jose Medina fight where, I don't know, I mean, that fight gave Jose Medina a contract in the UFC. I couldn't believe it when I heard Dana White was signing Jose Medina off of that performance. It was a pretty clean win for Gadzhiyasulov. It was a fight where I think he won 30-27, and Medina really just showed toughness. But just goes to show you, this guy, like Jose Medina, get a contract off of a win, and then he goes in there against Brenson Ribeiro in his debut, and it's just an awful fight. I mean, it's rough. He's going in there, he's making mistakes, he's losing rounds to Brenson Ribeiro. Still wins the fight, don't get me wrong, but I'm just not impressed with Magomed Gadzhiyasulov at all. So when I saw the line, I'm like, maybe we got a live dog in our hands with Bruno Lopes. And then you go watch Bruno Lopes, and it's like, oh my God. This is a guy that he's very hittable. I think he's very chinny as well. Like, we saw him get hurt in his last fight, got dropped in the first round, got knocked out badly by Brenson Ribeiro. I'm just not really sure what he's that great at. I think he's a black belt in BJJ. He can get takedowns here or there on the regional scene, but is he going to take down Gadzhiyasulov? I don't think so. I think it's a fight where Gadzhiyasulov probably wins here. I think he's the more technical striker. I think he can land the better shots on the feet and potentially even get takedowns as well. So I like Gadzhiyasulov. I do not like him at minus 220, and I think this fight's going to completely suck very bad, and I think it's going to be an awful fight. But from a prize picks perspective, I like Magomed Gadzhiyasulov more than 10 minutes fight time. I don't think this guy's finishing anybody in the UFC. The one worry would be, I think Bruno Lopes is a bit chinny, but I don't think Gadzhiyasulov's finishing anybody. He wasn't able to finish Jose Medina, who's the worst fighter I've ever seen, and he wasn't able to finish Brenson Ribeiro, who's also one of the worst fighters I've ever seen. So I think that more than 10 minutes fight time is a good look. If you guys are new to Prize Picks and want to check it out, use promo code DFSBTN. You will get $50 free into your Prize Picks account when you place your first $5 entries. So check it out and check out that more than 10 minutes fight time. I think this fight's going to be greasy. I think it's going to be boring. It's going to be ugly. And I think it goes to decision, actually. Moving on to the next fight. We got Ernesta Kareckaite going against Nicolle Caliari. We got Kareckaite, 26 years old, 5'9" with a 71-inch reach, 5-1-1 and 3-1-1 in her last 5 fights. Nicolle Caliari, 28 years old, 5'3" with a 62-inch reach, 8-1 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. So this fight actually opened up a pick'em, minus 110 each way, and Kareckaite's now a minus 260 favorite, and Caliari's plus 220. And I really just couldn't disagree any more than that. I think this is a very close fight here. And I think Ernesta does some things actually really well. I like Ernesta. She's big for the division, 5'9", 71-inch reach. She's obviously going to be much bigger in this matchup. She's going to have a much bigger reach in this matchup as well. She has great cardio. She has elite volume. But, Caliari, this is a fighter who... there's still some question marks I have about her, because I remember taping Caliari for a Contender Series, and I'm going back, and there wasn't a ton of tape on her, right? And I'm going back, and the only available footage was her, 6-7 years ago, and it wasn't great, right? Like her striking actually impressed me 6-7 years ago. I thought she was a really good striker, but the one hole that she had in her game, I thought, was the takedown defense, the grappling. There was the Kay Hansen fight where Kay Hansen was able to sub her and all that, but that was like five so years ago at this point. And then she comes into the Contender Series, and I hadn't seen her in 5 so years, and I was expecting her to, I picked her to win, but I was expecting her to really show out in the striking, but she actually went out there and got a sub, and she's been working on that grappling. You check her Instagram, she's been working on the grappling, she's had that striking really forever, so I think Caliari is improving here, and I think she can make this competitive. I think all the grappling upside is in favor of Caliari. I think Caliari can get takedowns here. I think she's the much better grappler. And then in the striking, it's like, yeah, you got to favor Ernesta with the size, the reach, and the volume, but I think Caliari is going to have the ability to land the bigger shots here. Caliari is a finisher. She has power. So, yeah, I'm actually going to take the big dog here in Caliari to win. I think it's going to be a close fight, but I think she can win minutes via the wrestling, the grappling, and then I also think she can land some big shots on the feet. So give me Nicolle Caliari to win this fight, and win this fight by decision. Next, we have Jacobe Smith going against Preston Parsons. We got Smith, 28 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 9-0, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Preston Parsons, 29 years old, 5'11", with a 71-inch reach, 11-5, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We have Jacobe Smith opening up -210. He is currently -350, and then Preston Parsons opened up +180. He is currently +275. So Jacobe Smith is actually coming in here on short notice, and Jacobe Smith, in terms of Contender Series fighters that I'm looking forward to being in the UFC, I'd say he's probably in my top 3. I was very impressed with this guy, what I've seen prior to his Contender Series fight, what I saw on the Contender Series from Jacobe Smith. This guy has a wrestling background. He has some of the most devastating ground and pound you'll see, and then on the feet just has a ton of power as well. And even like the cardio is not that bad. Like he's been 15 minutes a couple times too. So yeah, Jacobe Smith really, really, really impressed me, and now he's coming in here on short notice, and it's like I'm looking at this fight and it's like, geez, I think it's a great matchup for him stylistically, because what does Preston Parsons want to do in all of his fights? The answer to that is get the fight down to the ground, and if he does that, he has success, he looks good. But if he's not able to get takedowns in some of these fights, he just looks awful, like that Oban Elliott fight his last time. I mean, that was a piss-poor performance from what Preston Parsons. I couldn't believe how bad he looked against Oban Elliott. So yeah, I think Jacobe Smith is going to be able to out-wrestle Preston Parsons here. I think Jacobe Smith can land a big shot on the very hittable Preston Parsons, but I also think Jacobe Smith can get takedowns in his own right, get on top, and land some of that ground and pound. So yeah, give me Smith here. I think he puts a hole in Preston Parsons' face at some point in this fight and wins this fight via TKO. So give me Jacobe Smith to win this fight. I'll take him to win this fight by second round knockout. Moving on, we have Thiago Moises going against Trey Ogden. We got Thiago Moises, 29 years old, 5'9", with a 70.5-inch reach, 18-8, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Trey Ogden, 35 years old, 5'11", with a 72-inch reach, 18-6, and 3-1, and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Thiago Moises opened up -210. He's currently -190. Trey Ogden opened up +180, and he's currently +165. So Trey Ogden is a guy that I really just can't figure out. I mean, this guy has just given me problems since his UFC debut, because he made his UFC debut against Jordan Levitt, and I bet on Trey Ogden in that fight thinking, hey, Levitt should be able to be the better striker. He should be able to get takedowns here, and he actually got outstruck by Jordan Levitt. It was honestly shocking to me what was going on in that fight. Jordan Levitt outstruck him 69-38 at distance, and I'm like, whoa. What's going on here, Trey Ogden? And then in his next fight against Daniel Zellhuber, I bet Zellhuber because, geez, Trey Ogden just got outstruck by Jordan Levitt. Daniel Zellhuber should be able to outstrike this guy, right? Wrong. Trey Ogden outstruck Daniel Zellhuber at distance 71 to 52 and beats Daniel Zellhuber. And I'm like, what's going on? Trey Ogden makes no sense to me whatsoever. And then his next fight, he fights Ignacio Bahamondes, and he just doesn't show up. He just doesn't do anything. He looks awful. He quit in that fight because he didn't even do anything. He didn't even try in that matchup. So, yeah, I don't know about Trey Ogden, but what I do know is he's a very smart fighter most of the time, I'd say. You know, he does have some questionable decisions here or there, like the entire Ignacio Bahamondes fight, but he's a coach, and he shows that. He shows great fight IQ, like I said, most of the time, and he's probably going to come in here with a good game plan. But in terms of this matchup, it's like, I don't know, I think the striking could be competitive, but I've always thought Thiago Moises was a very underrated striker. And in terms of the grappling, Trey Ogden is a black belt, but Moises is a very, very, very high-level black belt. So I think that if Ogden takes down Moises, he is going to be playing with fire a little bit. We've seen Ogden get himself caught into a couple submissions. He had 2 against Thomas Gifford via guillotine, so he has 3 submission losses in total. So yeah, if he takes down Moises, he's going to have to be aware of that guillotine, of something off the back of Moises as well. And then if Moises is able to take down Trey Ogden, get to his back, Ogden definitely could be in trouble too. So I do think there's a lot of avenues for Thiago Moises to win this fight. Trey Ogden has been looking good, but I'm going to go Moises here to get the job done, and I think he wins this fight by sub. Like I said, Ogden's been sub 3 times. I think Moises is just a higher level grappler, and I think these guys are going to play around on the mat at some point in this fight. So give me Thiago Moises to win this fight, and I'll take him to win this fight by second round submission. Moving on, we have Marco Tulio going against Ihor Potieria. And we got Tulio, 30 years old, 6'1", with a 74.5-inch reach. He's 12-1 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Ihor Potieria, 28 years old, 6'3", with a 75-inch reach, 21-7 and 1-4 in his last 5 fights. We have Tulio opening up minus 300. He is currently minus 500. Ihor Potieria opening up plus 250. He's currently plus 375. And yeah, this fight, I don't know. I mean, I think Tulio is probably just a better fighter here. What I will say about Potieria is, like, this is a guy that, even in, like, losses, is kind of impressing me. Potieria is a guy that I thought would be, like, 3 and done, go 0-3 in all 3 of those fights, but that just hasn't been the case for Potieria. He's still here, and I think this is going to be, like, a 7th or 8th fight in the UFC, which is crazy, because I thought this guy was completely awful. I thought this guy was one of the worst fighters to ever enter the UFC. I thought he was a fraud, but that is not the case. And like I said, he's losing a lot of these fights, but he's having a lot of very good moments, like in that Bellato fight. Was on his way to finishing Bellato. Borderline did finish Bellato, and the ref didn't stop it, and ended up getting TKO'd after gassing out. But yeah, I mean, he very well could have won that fight. Had his moments against Cesar Almeida in his last fight. So yeah, Potieria, I still think he's bad, but I think he's a lot better than I originally expected him to be. But in this matchup, it's like, Tulio just has more ways to win. Tulio, he can, push Potieria against the cage, win minutes there. He can get takedowns, get on top, win minutes there. And then in the striking, I do think he's just a better striker overall. So Tulio, his cardio is good. I think the durability is solid as well. So yeah, this should be Tulio. I don't know about minus 500. I think we're discrediting Potieria a little bit. I think he'll lose, but I think he'll look better than plus 375. But yeah, I'm going Tulio. I'm going Tulio to win this fight by decision. Next, we have a very fun fight on our hands. We got Jose Johnson going against Felipe Bunes. We got Johnson, 29 years old, 6 foot with a 71.5-inch reach, 16-9 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Felipe Bunes, 35 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach, 13-7 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Jose Johnson opened up minus 250. He's currently minus 180. And we have Bunes opening up plus 210. He's currently a plus 155 underdog. And yeah, I think this fight's going to be fun. Jose Johnson, we haven't seen it yet in the UFC. We have not seen it yet. But this guy has a ton of power for a flyweight. First of all, I mean, look at the size of this guy for a flyweight. 6 foot with a 71.5-inch reach. We do not see 6 foot flyweights. It just doesn't happen. It shouldn't happen. But this guy makes weight and looks good doing it. So a 6 foot flyweight, and like I said, just with a ton of power. You go back and watch some of Jose Johnson fights outside the UFC, and he is literally putting guys into the hospital. I mean, he's watched this one fight where he landed a nasty elbow to the side of the head, and the guy started having a seizure. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's not good. This guy's having a seizure. And then there was another fight where he landed a big shot and the guy just wouldn't get up. Like, he wouldn't get up. It cut to commercial. They came back and he was still on the ground. It was kind of hard to watch. Jose Johnson has unreal power for a flyweight, but we haven't got to see that yet. And the reason we haven't got to see that yet is because guys are humping this guy's leg. Guys are humping Jose Johnson's leg so much. Also, Amabayev, last fight, 6 takedowns. Chad and Helliger, 4 takedowns. Damon Blackshear took him down and subbed him. Ronnie Lawrence, on his Contender Series fight, on his first one, took him down 12 times. On his second Contender Series fight, Jack Cartwright took him down 6 times. So people are taking down Jose Johnson, and quite frankly, they're taking him down for a reason. If you go out there and swing dicks with Jose Johnson, you're probably going to end up in the hospital. So Felipe Bunes, this guy I do think is going to be down to throw a little bit, but I do think Felipe Bunes is trying to go out there and take down Jose Johnson. That's what everybody does. But I just don't think Bunes has the cardio to do that. I don't think Bunes can go out there and wrestle for 15 minutes. And if he doesn't submit Jose Johnson early, which it could happen, Johnson's been submitted a handful of times, but if he doesn't submit Johnson early, I think Bunes is going to really start to slow down. And if you slow down against Charles Johnson, like Johnson's a guy that, that power carries late. That submission game carries late. So, I think Bunes might have some success early on getting takedowns there, but as the fight goes on, as he slows down, I think Jose Johnson starts to take over, and I think he gets a finish in the latter half of the fight. So give me Jose Johnson to win this fight. I think it could be knockout. I think it could be submission. I think it could be club and sub, but I'll say Jose Johnson wins this fight by second round knockout. This should be a very, very fun fight here. All right. Next fight, we have Uros Medic going against Punahele Soriano. We got Medic, 31 years old, 6'1" with a 71-inch reach, 10-2 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Punahele Soriano, 32 years old, 5'11" with a 72.5-inch reach, 10-4 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Let's check out these odds. We have Uros Medic opening up -205. He's currently -210. Punahele Soriano opening up +175. He's currently +180. This is a fight that I did go back and forth on in terms of picking a winner. And the more I thought about this fight, the more I think that Soriano definitely has a path here. But a problem that I've ran into in the past, and I've been doing this a long time, but a problem I ran into in the past is taping the fight, thinking about a game plan in your head for some of these guys, right? Like, it's obvious what Soriano should do here. I mean, it's fairly obvious, and the answer to what he should do is take this guy down. Don't strike with Uros Medic. It's not a good idea. Take this guy down, and if he does that, I mean, Soriano's, I think he wins this fight quite easily. But my worry is if he goes out there and strikes and swings dicks with Uros Medic, it's probably going to end very poorly for him. I'm not saying he can't win that fight. It's just Medic is the much better striker here. But we saw Punahele cut down to welterweight for the first time in his career last fight, and I was skeptical because that cut from middleweight to welterweight is a big one, right? And it's like Punahele Soriano, he already looked shredded at middleweight. How's he going to make welterweight? But he made it. He looked good, and we saw a completely different version of Punahele Soriano. We saw an absolute beast, an absolute monster. That was one of the most dominant decision wins I think I've ever seen in my entire life, when he took down Miguel Baeza 5-6 times and just put a beat down on him. He landed 331 total strikes in that matchup. I'm not sure how he didn't get a finish there, but it was just from pillar to post, just beat the brakes off of Miguel Baeza. And I think he could do that here. Like Uros Medic, great striker, don't get me wrong, but the takedown defense has always been in question for me. The ground game's always been in question. The cardio's always been in question. And when guys are taking him down, they're having success doing so. When he gets other strikers, he's looking really good. But when he's getting guys that are willing to take him down, he looks bad, very bad. I mean, Jalen Turner took him down and subbed him easily. My titty back Oral Boy, my titty back took him down 7 times and on short notice and submitted him in the second round. Why can't Punahele Soriano come in here like he did against Baeza, wrestling background, take this guy down, wear on him, and either finish him or win a decision here? So I got to go Punahele Soriano here. I think the path is clear as day. Will he take that path? It's yet to be seen, but yeah, I think it's a live dog. So give me Punahele Soriano to win this fight. I'll take him to win this fight. I don't know. I mean, it could be really any method. I think it could be a TKO via ground and pound. I think it could be a decision via top time. I think it could even get a submission potentially here against Medic, who's been subbed twice. So I'll say TKO for Punahele Soriano. But like I said, I think all methods are on the table for him. But yeah, give me Soriano to win this fight. Moving on to the next fight, it is Austin Bashi going against Christian Rodriguez. We got Bashi, 23 years old, 5'6" with a 70-inch reach, 13-0, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Christian Rodriguez, 27 years old, 5'7", with a 71-inch reach, 11-2, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Austin Bashi opened up, believe it or not, plus 165, and he's currently minus 300. Christian Rodriguez opened up as a minus 190 favorite, and he's currently plus 250. So somebody got fired, which is fine, because these odds flipped and have heavily swayed in favor of Austin Bashi. So like I said earlier, in terms of Contender Series last year, Jacobe Smith was like a top 3 guy I'm looking forward to, probably 2-3, but Austin Bashi has solidified the number 1 spot for me in terms of guys that I'm very high on and looking forward to in the UFC. And yeah, Bashi, I think this guy's the real deal. Very, very good, really everywhere. Solid striking, the grappling's really good, the cardio's really good, the wrestling's really good. Just really good everywhere. Only 23 years old, only going to get better, only going to keep improving, has some solid competition, some solid wins outside the UFC, and I think he's going to have a very good career in the UFC here. So Christian Rodriguez, it's kind of funny what they're doing with Rodriguez, like, because we've seen this 3 times already. The UFC, they're giving Christian Rodriguez an undefeated prospect, right? They gave him Raul Rosas Jr., who was undefeated. People were high on Raul Rosas Jr. They gave him Raul Rosas Jr. They gave him Isaac Dalgarian in one of his last fights. Dalgarian, who was undefeated. People think the world of Dalgarian, and I think the world of Dalgarian. Very, very good fighter. He beats Dalgarian. They give him Cameron Simon. Goes out there and beats Cameron Simon, who was undefeated at the time. People were very high on. So yeah, they've done this 3 times already. And now they're giving him an undefeated guy who people are very, very high on. So we'll see if Christian Rodriguez can go 4-0 against these undefeated prospects with just a ton of hype. And I got to go Bashi here. I think Bashi's going to win this fight. The reason being is Bashi's different than Dalgarian, Simon, and Raul Rosas Jr. And I think Dalgarian especially is incredible. I think Raul Rosas Jr. is okay, and Simon, he's fine as well. But what Dalgarian, what Bashi has that Dalgarian doesn't have is, I don't want to say cardio, it's just the ability to manage that cardio. Dalgarian, he completely death gassed right in that fight. About halfway through, completely death gassed. Bashi's not going to gas out in this fight. It's not going to happen. Bashi can go 15 minutes. He can wrestle hard for 15 minutes. So although Dalgarian, I think, he's a great prospect, great fighter, he's going to have a great career. He death gassed, and it's not easy to finish Christian Rodriguez. You got to be able to have the ability to go 15 minutes, and that's exactly what happened to Raul Rosas Jr. as well. Raul Rosas Jr. had some moments early on, was able to take him down, control him, almost sub him, couldn't sub him, and after that first round ended, Raul Rosas Jr. didn't have much left. He also completely gassed, and Rodriguez was able to take over. And like I said, I just don't think that's going to happen to Bashi. I think Bashi can wrestle for 15 minutes if need be. He can get takedowns. He can take the back. He can, get some control time, and he can potentially get a submission as well. So I like Bashi here. The odds are crazy. Like, just, thinking about, like, Rodriguez has done this before. He's been there before. He's beaten these undefeated guys. So minus 300 is insane. But I think that goes to show you just how and what people think about Austin Bashi. I think this guy's the next big thing. So I'm going to go Bashi here. I'm going to take Bashi to probably win this fight by decision. And I do think it could be a little bit closer than this line does indicate, because Christian Rodriguez, this guy's no bum at all. So I'll go Bashi, though, and I'll go Bashi to win this fight by decision. Should be a closer fight than people think, I think. Moving on To the next fight, we got Roman Kopylov going against Chris Curtis. We got Kopylov, 32 years old, 6 foot, with a 75-inch reach, 13-3, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Chris Curtis, 37 years old, 5'10", with a 75.5-inch reach, 31-11, and 2-2 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at these odds we have. Kopylov opening up as a minus 180 favorite, currently minus 250. Chris Curtis opening up plus 155. He's currently plus 210 underdog. And yeah, I mean, this is should be a fun fight. Should be a striker's delight here. I think both these guys are not going to look for takedowns. I know Kopylov did in his last fight, I think the fight before against Cesar Almeida, but that's not happening here. Chris Curtis has elite takedown defense, and Chris Curtis has not completed a takedown yet in the UFC, and he probably never will. So yeah, both these guys are going to strike for 15 minutes, and I think it's as simple as Roman Kopylov just has more tools on the feet. You know, the kicks, the volume, the power. Roman Kopylov's a very high-level striker. The thing that gets Kopylov in trouble is the grappling. Like, we saw him get submitted by Carl Roberson, of all people. We saw him get submitted by Fluffy. That's not in Chris Curtis's bag. Curtis is not going to grapple here. He's going to strike. And yeah, Curtis, I think if he's going to win this fight, it's probably going to be by knockout, because I just don't see him out-voluming Roman Kopylov. I don't see him winning much minutes against Kopylov, at least early. Like, maybe Kopylov can slow down and gas out, but I think he's going to have to knock him out, and that's going to be much, much easier said than done, because Kopylov has one of the biggest heads I think I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't think this guy's getting knocked out anytime soon. So, like, I like Kopylov here. I think Kopylov probably wins this fight by decision. These guys have a million fights combined. What was that, like 42, 45, like 50, 58 fights combined, only one knockout loss between the two. Like, both these guys are extremely durable. The one knockout loss Chris Curtis had, I think it was in the a night where he had like 2 or 3 fights in one night. So yeah, I think both these guys are durable. Both these guys, they are dangerous, but I think this fight goes 15, and I think Kopylov just does the better work, just does the better minute winning. Chris Curtis, not really a minute winner, kind of knockout reliant in a lot of fights. So I'm going to go in Kopylov here, Kopylov by decision. And yeah, should be a good one. All right, moving on. We have Cesar Almeida going against Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. We got Almeida, 36 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach, 6-1, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Abdul Razak Al-Hassan, 39 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach, 12-6, and 2-2 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. We have Almeida opening up minus 210. He's currently minus 275. Abdul Razak Al-Hassan opened up plus 180. He's currently plus 235. And I don't know what to do with this fight, because when I first saw the line, I was baffled, and I think I'm still a little bit baffled about this line, because I don't think Cesar Almeida is all of that at all. I think he's a very good striker, obviously a kickboxing background. But geez, you know, some of these fights, like Dylan Butka was looking incredible against Cesar Almeida for the first like 7.5 minutes until Butka gassed out, but Butka was taking this guy down, wearing on him. We saw even like his last fight against Ihor Potieria, like, if you're some great kickboxer, which he is, he's a great kickboxer, you should be, you know, sparking Ihor Potieria. You should be knocking this guy out, but he actually went to decision with Potieria, and Potieria was taking this guy down. I'm like, what's going on? Ihor Potieria had 0 takedowns prior to that fight. Now all of a sudden he's taking down Cesar Almeida, and he did it 3 times. I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't good. We saw even get taken down on the Contender Series 3 times. And then what also was weird was Roman Kopylov, who I think had 0 takedowns prior to their fight. Roman Kopylov all of a sudden looked like Khabib Nurmagomedov against this guy. So I think the takedown defense of Cesar Almeida is a serious concern. Will Abdulrazak Al-Hassan test that? I think the answer is yes. But can he test that for 15 minutes? Because Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, he's not going to take you down. He's not going to sub you. He's probably not going to TKO you. But he can get takedowns. And he can take down Almeida. But can Abdulrazak Al-Hassan do that for 15 minutes? And that's kind of the big question for me. Because I don't think Alasan's going to go out there and knock out Cesar Almeida on the feet, standing. I mean, it could. Alasan has a ton of power, obviously, but I just think in terms of striking, like Almeida's the better striker, and Almeida also has an absolute granite chin as well. So I think for Alasan to win this fight, he's probably going to have to do something he hasn't done much. He's done it a little bit. He did it against Buckley, and that's going to be getting takedowns here. And if he does that, like, he could win, but the cardio of Alasan is a concern for me. And the other concern is this guy's 39 years old, and he's not won a fight that's went past 6 minutes, so it's really hard for me to pick Abdulrazak Alasan, even though I can kind of see it in my head. Like, he has a path. So I got to take Cesar Almeida. I think that Alasan can win the first round with some cage pushing, some takedowns here or there. But I just think as the fight goes on, Alasan's going to do what he always does. He's going to slow down the takedowns. They'll get harder and harder. Almeida's going to be doing the much better work on the feet. And I think Almeida's going to win this fight by decision, winning those last 2 rounds. So give me Cesar Almeida to win this fight, and give me Cesar Almeida to win this fight by decision. All right, next we have the co-main event, a very fun fight here. Santiago Ponzinibbio going against Carlston Harris. We got Ponzinibbio, 38 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach. He's 29-8 and 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Carlston Harris, 37 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach, 19-6 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Harris actually opened up the favorite at -155. He's now the underdog at +105. Santiago Ponzinibbio opened up as a +135 underdog, and he's currently -125. So I've always been a big fan of Carlston Harris. You know, this is a guy that he's talented. He's very talented. He is getting up there in age, but as is Ponzinibbio, he has this weird striking style that you really can't compare to anything. It's very unique. It's very awkward, and that awkward striking style gives a lot of guys some problems because, you know, it's hard to get looks like that in the gym. This guy's just like winging. It looks like that the wacky inflatable arm man. He's just winging shots, and it's ugly, but it's effective. It works. He has a ton of power, and he's hurt guys. He's clipped guys and knocked them out, and he's done it in the UFC. We saw him knock out Impa Kasaganai in the UFC. We saw him drop that Aguilera guy and get a club and sub, right? So the striking, although weird and awkward, it's effective and he has power. And I think the chin of Ponzinibbio is not where it once was. Ponzinibbio at one point had a granite chin, had elite durability. But nowadays he's getting knocked out by the Leech, which is no shame in that. He's getting knocked out by Kevin Holland. There's no shame in that. Getting dropped by Alex Morono, there is some shame in that though. So I think the chin of Ponzinibbio is kind of on its way out. With that said, though, I think Carlston Harris's chin is terrible too. So I think both these guys lack a chin at this point, which should make for a fun fight. So I think either guy's live for a knockout. But I think Carlston Harris has all the grappling upside. You look through Ponzinibbio's career, and nobody's taken this guy down. And the reason being, he fights all strikers. Like the last time this guy fought a grappler was probably close to 10 years ago. So Carlston Harris has an elite submission game, really good, some of the best front chokes you'll see, and if he's able to get Ponzinibbio down, I think he can do some damage and potentially get a sub as well. So I think Carlston Harris could very well get knocked out. I mean, very well can get knocked out. But just think he has more ways to win. So I'm going to take Harris to win here. I think he wins this fight by sub, whether it's him getting a takedown and getting to the neck or whether it's a club and sub. I think a club and sub is certainly in play here. I think the chin of Ponzi is not great at this point. And then Harris has that nasty front choke. So give me Carlston Harris to win this fight. I'll take him to win this fight by submission. And should be a very fun one here. Another prize picks play I do like, and I actually bet this one as well. I'm on the under 2.5 rounds. I like the less on the fight time in minutes for Santiago Ponzinibbio. They have it at 12.5, and yeah, like I said, I think both guys can get a knockout win. Even Carlston, I think Carlston Harris can knock out Ponzi. I think Ponzi's very live to knock out Harris, and then I also think that Harris can get a sub. I just think there's a lot of ways for this fight to finish. Both guys are getting up there in age. Both these guys have no durability at this point, in my opinion. So yeah, I like that less than 12.5 minutes of fight time. Check it out on Prize Picks. Use that promo code DFSBTN. Get yourself a bonus of $50 if you place your first $5 lineup. All right, main event. We have Amanda Ribas going against Mackenzie Dern 2. We got Amanda Ribas, 31 years old, 5'3", with a 66-inch reach, 13-5 and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Mackenzie Dern, 31 years old, 5'4", with a 63-inch reach, 14-5 and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Amanda Ribas opened up -170, currently -200. Mackenzie Dern opened up plus 145. She's currently a plus 170 underdog. And yeah, this is a fight that we saw a few years ago. And when I say a few, it was like 5. And I remember that fight. And I remember that Dern was coming in off of a layoff, and she was coming in off of a pregnancy. And as we know, that typically doesn't always end well, and it didn't. I mean, Mackenzie Dern looked completely awful. I think that's the worst she's ever looked in the UFC. Maybe outside like the Andrade fight, but it was a bad performance from Mackenzie Dern, and it was completely one-sided. It wasn't even close. Amanda Ribas looked really good, and that performance kind of put Amanda Ribas on the map a little bit. Like, that performance was very good, kind of built up Amanda Ribas. So a lot has changed since then. A lot has changed in these last 5 years, especially on the Dern side, in my opinion. Dern could not complete a takedown to save her life. And nowadays, she still kind of can't, but it's a lot better than it was. I mean, at one point, I think Dern had like a 7%, I kid you not, like a 7% takedown accuracy, Mackenzie Dern. But now she has a 16%. So over than doubled her takedown accuracy. So that's good. I think her striking has improved leaps and bounds. It's still not great at all, but compared to what it was, it has indeed improved. So I think McDern, although the wrestling's still not great, the striking's still not great, it has certainly improved from what it was. But looking at this matchup, I just think it's a tough matchup for Dern. Like, stylistically, it's like Ribas, she's going to be the better striker. She's going to have the much better volume, the much better the striking in general. The takedown defense of Ribas is honestly elite. Like, I think her takedown defense is sitting around 85% takedown defense for Ribas. So is Dern going to take her down? Probably not. And we saw in their first fight, like, Ribas can take down Dern. Really, anybody could take down Dern because Dern's kind of content to be on her back. But Ribas, unlike a lot of other Dern's opponents, like, Ribas can hang in the grappling. Ribas is a very, very good grappler in her own right. So Ribas is not going to be afraid to win minutes on top herself. So yeah, I kind of see Ribas being able to dictate where this fight takes place. If she wants it on the feet, it'll be on the feet. If she wants takedowns, she can get them free and easy. So I got to go Ribas here. I don't think it's going to look as dominant, as one-sided as their first fight. I think, like I said, a lot has changed. Dern was coming off the layoff, the pregnancy, but I still got to go Ribas here. I'm going to go Ribas to win this fight and win this fight by decision. There you guys have it, the first breakdown of 2025. Be on the lookout for more content throughout the week. Got my DraftKings video dropping on Thursday. Betting breakdown video will be dropping on Friday. Got my final thoughts, my post weigh-in thoughts, live stream on Friday as well. And then got best bet for 2025. Have a couple new guys coming out, which should be fun. So yeah, a lot of content still coming your way for 2025 here. If you guys could do me a favor on your way out, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment, let me know what you guys are liking from a betting perspective. Check out PrizePicks, use that code DFSBTN, and then also check out DFSbythenumbers.com. That's where you'll find all my other content, and like I said, is the best way to support me as well. So best of luck for UFC Vegas 101, and we'll talk to you guys soon. See you later.